Now, let's start with a poll. The future of attractions post-lockdown. If you've heard me speak, you'll have heard me say there's no such thing as post-COVID. It's post-lockdown.
Yep.
Right. 3 options. The future looks bright. People want to have an awesome experience out of the home. Option 2, the future looks murky. I don't know how things will change post-lockdown. And option 3 is the future looks dark. I don't think there is a place for my offering. Let's
Tricky
see.
one.
Let's
don't
poll
forget
now.
Scroll
don't
down.
forget to scroll down or scroll across. We'd like your opinions.
Yeah, I get into trouble a lot while we wait for these results when I have a meeting with our directors. I think I'm eternally positive and optimistic and often probably not realistically so. So I went for the top one. I do think it looks bright. I think South Africans are going to travel around. I think they want to get out. As we said, the goals keep shifting and they move. And as Mr. Khoza said, we missed the school holidays previously. So I think people are just delaying it and it's going to come. So.
Another thought I had while they were talking is we often don't have the opportunity to do the kind of research that has been forced upon us now. So, for example, what percentage of my business is directly linked to Gauteng? Well, you would never close Gauteng down.
No.
It's now happened. So one of the things I would advise people is to keep a very clear record of what closures happened when. You'd be surprising how few of us have kept very clear records on that, because to mine that data going backwards is going to be very interesting. Yeah. So do we have some results here?
I think we've got some results. Okay, 0% say the future looks dark. That's exceptional news, good news. 20% the future looks murky. I can understand that. That's tricky. And 80% say the future looks bright, which is really positive. I mean, that's the sort of note we want to be on.
And that leads us straight into our next conversation, the future of attractions benefits that have come out of the pandemic. And we have Ella Baskerville joining us. She's the Business Development Manager for Blue Loop. Hello, Ella. Nice to meet you virtually. Now, Blue Loop is the most widely read and trusted news source for attraction professionals. I read Blue Loop every single day. I get their daily newsletter. So much so I don't have to read their weekly roundup because I've read it all. I honestly do find it the most useful newsletter. I'm not just saying that. Because it crosses the entire boundaries of attractions. And if you're an attraction professional, if it's one thing you sign up for, I would say it's this and Colleen Dillon-Schneider's museum data thing. Okay. I mean, it's free information. Use it. So thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing what you've got to say, Ella.
Well, thank you, Sabine. I didn't pay you to say that. No, I'm sure. But no, hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. As you said, I'm Business Development Manager at Blue Loop. Please check us out. We do a ton of content all around the world, in industry news. And we also have virtual events and webinars coming up. So I'm really pleased to be here. And I'm really pleased to hear those poll results. That's really positive. And I think does show that whilst there is still some uncertainty, there's been a lot of benefits and positives that have come out of the industry in terms of kind of future trends. It's really accelerated certain trends and innovations that are here to kind of stay. So I'm looking forward to kind of highlighting those silver linings for you today. So I'm going to jump straight in to the first trend, which is the accelerated use of technology. So we've heard it a lot this morning about dynamic pricing in terms of increasing your revenue in quieter times of year and directing guests to come visit in different times of day. Things like touchless payments are now expected by guests in terms of having hygienic, safe ways of payment, but it's also sustainable, which is, I know, something that a lot of attractions are trying to make real strides towards. But one of the biggest trends really is the kind of connected digital experience, which I know we're going to hear about a bit in the session after mine with Semantics, who do fantastic work with user experiences. But really, with all bookings going online, there was a sudden drive and innovation in terms of getting those bookings in, having a good digital journey from an easy access website, to converting that customer, keeping in touch with them throughout their process. So you might want to email them to say all the COVID measures that you've taken, all things that they need to be aware of for their visit, and then also keeping in touch with them afterwards. So keeping connections, making use of those repeat visitors afterwards, and really just holding their hand throughout the entire digital experience. And I think one of the biggest trends has been people's ability to be okay with you using their data in that way. I know at least in the UK, we've had our test and trace app, and everyone was just okay with their data being used in that way. And I think it's kind of translated to a lot of other uses where data sharing is much more accepted. And it's a great thing for attractions and we've talked about it briefly as well earlier today, talking about how important this is for your planning. So you can now plan your resources, your staff levels for certain days if you know who's coming through the door. So that booking ahead of time is so valuable. And I don't really see that trend going backwards when there has so much value to operators. But it also enables attractions to use really clever tech in the experience to make it more personalized. So if you know the language of your visitors, you can then create personalized experiences. So different screens can show up and welcome your guests in their native language. They can have RFID technology, so certain wristbands where they can do interactive things around an experience. There's ways to really use this data that you've got from your bookings to make the experience even better and more memorable. There's also uses of facial recognition. So that is being used in ticketing, but also, again, in the experiential side, Disney are looking at using facial expressions to actually change the ride in real time. So if a guest looks terrified, then they'll be able to tone it down and make it more, less scary. Or if they're looking bored, they can turn it up. So they're looking at this R&D at the moment, and there's loads of really clever ways that technology is being pushed throughout operations and their creative experiences. And that brings me on to the next trend, which is these experiences. So in any tough time, there is always a burst of innovation, and we really saw that. So when attractions had their doors closed, people came up with some really clever ways to still create memories. So a lot of them were drive-through based. So this one on the screen was the Van Gogh immersive drive-through experience. So it was projection mapped through these tunnels. There was drive-through Halloween experiences, and then also other exhibitions and cinema. That was a huge thing. So whole new experiences. There were ways where attractions had to get quite creative in their meet and greets. So you couldn't give Mickey a hug anymore, but instead they had to think of ways for the characters to engage with the guests, but be at a distance, so in clever spots around the park. And also for completely new revenue streams. So the picture on the screen is virtual reality on water slides. So it's monetizing something that has been there for ages. It could be an old slide or an old theme park ride, but it's adding that upsell and really squeezing every last dollar out of any of your guests. With those reduced capacities, it's even more important to get them spending in park. So people got really, really creative with it. And there was clever things in zoos, like we spoke about shout outs from celebrities, but also there's machines that do automatic feeding. So at home, you can press a button and feed the animals at the zoo. So yeah, really clever ways where people got innovative with it all. Another benefit that came out was really the importance of front of house staff. So we've known this for ages, but it really did show how important they've been through a lot. There was so many layoffs and furloughs for thousands of frontline people in attractions. And then when attractions opened up again, it was normally the youngest members of staff that were on the front line cleaning, also having to often enforce mask policies and keep the guests safe. And what is interesting is it's not really, when you look at the research, there was a lot done around visitor sentiment, and it wasn't members of the public being worried about the cleaning quality or the staff keeping them safe. But the hesitancy was always down to other members of the public ruining their day. So staff are super important in terms of making those experiences for people, keeping everyone safe. And it really did show how important they were throughout this entire pandemic. And that's the same, actually. There's in the US, they have a problem now they need to employ thousands of people back again, and they're struggling. So they're including monetary bonuses and that sort of thing just to get people back. So it's just shown how important it is to treat your staff well, retain them, and have them be your best ambassadors, because they really are interacting with the guests all the time. So I touched on this earlier, but it is so important to have that seamless journey from the website going in through having an app. So there was a burst of innovation again around apps and what they can do. So they've been there forever, but now it really is a push in the COVID measures and a more enjoyable guest experience. So now digital apps can not only do ticketing, but you can do mobile ordering. So you could order food through it, so your guests don't have to queue indoors. They can also buy things on the gift shop. It can do virtual queues. And these are trends that I don't see now. They've been offered as kind of a knee-jerk reaction to the pandemic. I can't see them going back, because it's when your guests aren't in a queue, they're in the gift shop spending money, or they're seeing another ride, or they're enjoying more of the park. And it's a way of adding value to the guest experience. So there was a huge innovation in that kind of technology and connected experience. And arguably, the attractions website became one of the most important assets overnight as well, because all bookings are going online. So you needed a website that wouldn't crash, a website that was easy to book through and have that good experience. And then, of course, get all that data for another time as well. One of the biggest benefits was showing how deep an engagement you can get through social media. So all attractions have some sort of presence on social media. And when the attraction doors were closed, it was actually an amazing opportunity for them to talk to the world about their attractions. So there was such clever campaigns to really not only talk about what was going on, so in terms of practical things when they're opening, that kind of thing, but it was about talking about their collections and their creative content that they have. And there was some great campaigns. So top left is the Getty Museum. They did a campaign about museum at home. So this is a woman posing with her Hoover to create some artwork. We had Tim from the National Cowboy Museum in the US. He was actually the only staff member allowed in the building at the time because it was closed. So he also took over their social feed, and he went viral because he was awesome. And then there are other examples. So things like other platforms like Twitch, which is the largest gaming platform, like streaming for gaming, and also Spotify. Monterey Bay do fantastic work across really unusual platforms. So ones where much younger audiences are going to. I mean, even in my age, I'm not on Twitch, and I'm too old for it. So it's about attracting the younger audiences and going to where they are. And Monterey Bay have a lot of work on a very famous game called Animal Crossing, which is all about really matches their educational angle and engaging with their guests through kind of sessions like that. And with Spotify, they have curated playlists to go with their live jellyfish feed. So it's like a chill out vibes, and which is curated from their staff. So the key is to get your younger staff who are fluent in these platforms, they know it already, to have such an authentic voice on them and reach those different audiences that you wouldn't have had before. And also this social media, it gave you the ability to go much wider than your normal kind of audience. So it was a way to really reach new people all over the world. And that's the same for content. So moving on, there was a ton of virtual content that happened. So on top left, this is the Frida Kahlo Museum in Mexico City. So they did a great virtual tour. But it's things like doing a virtual tour for me now. I've never been to Mexico City, but when I go, I might be able to go and travel again, and I'll go there because I've seen it already. But I also might buy things from their gift shop right now. People who monetize these virtual channels did really well as an extra revenue stream there and then. So there was a chance to donate to museums or buy a membership for a year just to support them, or these individual campaigns to either buy things in the shop or for content. And there was a chance to really educate people. So a lot of people did a ton of content on YouTube, and lots of them really used their staff's knowledge already. This is stuff that they talk about every day behind the scenes, and it was a way to get them in front of the scenes and talking to people. So this is an example from the Field Museum in the US, who did the Brain Scoop, which is a channel on YouTube. So there was loads of content flying about, so much it was hard to keep track of all of this switch to virtual. And the kind of happy secondary benefit for that was it was fantastic for disabled people who couldn't often come to the museum, or if they could, they couldn't access all of it at the same time. So it actually enabled that group community to access all of it online. And also it has initiated much more thinking of inclusivity in these institutions. So when they are planning their physical spaces, it's also planning the digital presence as well at the same time. So it's had a great impact for those reasons. Another benefit is really showing the power of the attractions industry. So not only monetary-wise, I know we've been hearing about the kind of impact economically, but really how important culturally and also for mental well-being as well. It's so important to come and experience and have fun with your family and friends. And so it's really shown the importance of that, but also the fact that institutions, particularly museums, zoos, aquariums, science centres, they can have a real impact in influencing their communities. So if they put their voice behind conservation efforts or sustainability or diversity, they can really have an impact in influencing people locally. There's been studies to show that museums, zoos and aquariums, they're actually more trusted than the media and more trusted than federal agencies. So they're seen as a credible source of information that isn't political. So that's just a fantastic, shows how powerful we really are. And a recent example is AAM and Aztec and many other library and museum associations in the US have formed Communities for Immunity, which is an initiative to encourage local projects and local conversations around vaccine uptake in the US, where they're struggling a little bit with that. So it's having a real powerful effect, even as we speak. Another benefit is the relationship between attractions and the community. And so we've been hearing just now how important the domestic tourism is and your local community. And they really supported each other throughout the last year. So we saw a lot of times when people really supported their attractions, whether that's through donating, buying memberships, using the online gift shop. So there was a big campaign in the UK to buy your Christmas gifts through museum gift shops. Another example is Chester Zoo in the UK. They also launched a Save Our Zoo campaign, and they raised £4 million in 2 weeks. So the power of your kind of best fans, I guess, in the local community is very, very strong. And that's just going to stay there as restrictions continue to kind of limit where we can travel, and that dependency on domestic is still there. And it has gone the other way. So we often also saw a lot of times where the attractions themselves supported the community. Again, so there was vendors that were producing PPE in the very start of it when there was kind of a shortage. And this is a great picture where the Harry Potter studios in London lent out their buses for the NHS doctors and nurses to come to work. So there was a great relationship and supportive community between them. And I hope that stays in the next kind of few years. Number 9, we've known this already, but of course now the public are even more set on making memories. So everyone's been locked down for many months, sometimes more than months, and they've really kind of reevaluated what gives them joy. I don't think many people will go back and say, "Oh, I really wish I'd bought that jumper or that jacket." It will be, "I wish I'd have gone to XYZ with my family and friends and enjoyed it." So we're really lucky that we're in a position to be there and help people make those memories for that pent-up demand for when the uncertainty and the things, when they can just go out and book, we are there and ready. So the kind of benefit is we're even more important than we were before as well. A great benefit was really the sheer collaboration in the industry. There was such a sense of camaraderie and collaboration between competitors, so people who wouldn't normally share data and kind of visitor numbers, things like that, they were sharing them because we recognized we were stronger together to get back on our feet. And there was a lot of kind of seeing what was going on around the world, how we can learn from other continents and other regions, particularly as the virus affected different regions at different times. So there was a lot of sharing knowledge. There was a lot of sharing best practices and webinars. And I know AAVEA and IAPA have collated a ton of resources and actually really lobbied on the industry's behalf to government, which was fantastic. And it has this real sense of partnership. And I think that's something that will hopefully stay as well, as we're, as I said, much stronger together as we're still kind of fighting the uncertainty. And then my final benefit would be it's actually a chance to recover better. So in some ways, the COVID pandemic it forced attractions to close for many months, but it gave them the space to regroup a bit. Normally attractions work season to season, and it's very kind of on to the next thing. But by being closed, they had the time to really assess those strategies, to do tasks they've been putting off for ages. Things like developing the new website, or how can we streamline this operation, looking at data, what opportunities are we missing out on. So it really is a chance to reflect. They were able to be more critical and really improve the experience, so that it wasn't just opening the doors the same as before, but you were actually opening the doors to a better experience than you had before. So that's my presentation. So there's quite a few benefits, particularly through innovation and creativity, that we've seen, and I think these are there to stay for the next kind of few years as we come through the recovery for the pandemic. And my details are on the screen. I'd love to talk to you all. Please do get in touch with me if you have any questions. And I'm just going to do a really cheeky push for Blue Loop's Virtual Expo, which is happening in October 4th to the 6th. So we'd love to see you all there. If you'd like to come. But yeah, I'd love to answer some questions. Sorry, I'm probably a bit quick, but I'd love to answer some questions now.
Great, Ella. Thank you so much for that. Very insightful, very useful. I was wondering, one thing that we haven't spoken much about is, and Bernard Donahue from AAVEA will be talking, our closing speaker today, on this topic, so we don't want to take some of his thunder away. But attractions as the new social spaces outside of the home, what trends have we seen there?
I think there's a lot of trends in terms of kind of competitive gaming out of the home. So there's these we've had them for ages, like putt-putt golf and things, but they're now becoming quite trendy darts games and kind of table games where it's competitive, really aimed at kind of city workers, I guess, after work to come and do that. But I think everyone's been inside for so long. It is a chance to see your friends. It is a chance to all get together. And I think that's really what's driving it, is missing having seen them for so many months.
That's right. I mean, we've spoken about this before, that really what the pandemic has done is accelerated trends that were in place already, and rather than created fancy new ones. Keeping your finger on that. It's quite interesting to me that at the beginning of the day, we spoke about that 27% of respondents to our survey felt that the industry had fundamentally changed and would not get back to 2019 numbers anytime ever, in fact, was the question. And yet when we did the survey now, everyone's bright and it's 80% say, so maybe the conference has changed that view. I don't know.
Timing is everything.
I don't know. But and thanks. Through Blue Loop, actually, I did come across that cowboy Instagram, what would you call it, hack. He was amazing. It was so interesting and so fantastic to follow how to use a different voice in your museum that then becomes a little bit more accessible to others. So
I think it's about having that authentic voice. It was great because he was, the security man. He didn't know anything about social media. It was so kind of authentic, and they were the first to post to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that are doing really great stuff on TikTok as well. I mean, I don't know TikTok, but I know so many museums are doing great content on there in terms of kind of looking behind the scenes, showing people things that they, extra value, stuff they wouldn't see on their video.
I also think there's not a fine line, but there's a play, again, not a game, but there's a thing you need to play between being perfect and having everything perfectly right, and then allowing the authenticity of trying something new and being a little bit creative. Yeah. So one has to do it professionally, but those authentic voices, things not being completely perfect. I think the pandemic has shown us that perfection is maybe not attainable anymore. So that's an interesting interplay to play with, actually, and to engage your customers with. Yeah. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I was actually just looking at your last slide, and I was wondering, you said we almost want to emerge better from all of this. I guess the old phrase is don't waste a good crisis. What advice would you give to an attraction, just broad advice in terms of coming back better? What does that mean? Is it better staff? Is it better, what would you add to that?
I think it's about learning from what's happened. So as Sabine mentioned earlier, kind of keeping a report on kind of what's happening, the data, knowing kind of what's affecting what's going on and really analyzing it. I know it takes a lot of time to look at that kind of thing, but really it's about seeing what's going on and then how you can better it. So I think it's a lot of things. It's kind of improving the guest experience. On the back end, it's things like efficiency. So if there are things that you just don't need or you can be doing better. I know a lot of people got time tickets quite as a knee-jerk reaction again, and things like they might not have got the best solution. So it's kind of like assessing all of your business functions like that. But I think it's a real mix of, great staff to support you, good ambassadors, good, efficient processes, and then, how can you plus your experience? You've got to now tempt people back who you have the hurdle of overcoming if they're hesitant for any safety reasons. So that's like hurdle one, but also they might have been before, so they still need, like you would normally plan for your repeats, what's different for them. They need a new experience that they want to head off to.
Fresh. Yeah, interesting.
I've spoken before about the hurdles about leaving home. In the past, I always said the mall was our biggest competitor. Now I say the couch is our biggest competitor. And there are a number of hurdles to leaving home. The Netflix effects means that your leisure time at home is so easily accessible. Everybody can do it when they want, where they want. You can all watch the same movie at different times. The switch out effect, if you decide you don't like this movie, you just switch over to something else. So that hurdle effect when you leave home is so much bigger. You've got to negotiate on how long you want to drive, how much you want to spend. You're all going to one place together. Yeah. That's a big discussion point. And the switch out cost, if you decide that you don't actually like a museum, is expensive. So I don't know if we've spoken enough about this, because I think particularly for younger generations, where the gaming, the virtual worlds, the esports, the Netflix, all of that it's really so much part of their fiber and fabric. So that's going to lure
them back.
Trying to lure them back. It's going to be quite an interesting. I'd love to talk to some younger generations to say, look, what would make you put that console down and actually spend X amount of money to go into whatever? Because I think that is actually going to be one hurdle that we need to think about.
Okay.
I think it's about creating something that they can't do at home. So it is something that they just can't recreate. And I think there is some fatigue with Netflix content. I can't remember what I've watched and what I haven't anymore.
Watched it all, just about. So a quick question. Has Blue Loop itself had to make any significant changes in how it works during the pandemic?
We haven't actually. I think we're very lucky. We worked from home already, so I've actually been doing it for 6 years. So I'm a pro at it. But we all work from home around the UK. So we're quite a small team, so we haven't had to kind of make any changes to our staffing or anything. And we're lucky to have actually grown in this time, because we have expanded our team and done a lot more news and lots of coverage. So I think, we're quite in a lucky space in terms of having to change. But really what we've done over the last year is focused on content. I mean, it was really important at the start of the pandemic to inform everyone on what was going on. So it was kind of looking to Asia, seeing what was happening, and then obviously update as the pandemic affected different regions. We just focused on content. And then, of course, we are now focusing on our virtual event in October as well. So there's lots of projects going on well.
I'm sure. Brilliant. Thank you. I've got another question. Do you have any case studies for attractions that have collaborated successfully? I don't know if we do enough of that in South Africa. Do you guys have any case studies of, you mentioned some attractions coming together, some competitors. Do you have any?
Yes. Not off the top of my head. I can have a little think, but I think it's more kind of on these groups. Like AAVEA have a fantastic I can't remember the word for it, a work group, where it's a lot of sharing information between attractions that they developed for Europe and then North America, I think. So there's some examples on that. I don't know if there's anything official written up anywhere, but I just know it was more of an informal kind of support groups that I was seeing a lot of it in.
There's an interesting question here from Julie May Ellingson. Some of you may remember her name. She was the CEO of the Convention Centre, where we're actually in at the moment. and left about 6 months before the pandemic. I think she's now in Ireland. Hi, Julie May. Lovely to have you here. Your question was, what advice would you give an attraction on how to ensure that expectations raised through digitization are delivered when they actually visit the door?
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
So, what advice would you give an attraction on how to ensure that the expectations that are raised through virtual experience of your attraction or digitization are actually delivered when people walk through the door?
Right. I guess the big thing is communication. So having kind of a clear strategy on kind of your marketing campaigns, your social media, to make sure you're not over delivering or under delivering, I guess. But also it's, I guess, working out where the line is between the virtual experience and the real experience, because they are often different. And you want to make sure that you put them as a different product so that, you know, people don't just think, well, I've done the virtual one, you know, I'm not going to come and visit anymore. So it's about working out which virtual product doesn't take away from virtual, and real doesn't take away from either.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Some of it comes with, in my opinion, lazy communication. Just this morning, I was on a site and they claimed that if I stayed there for the night, it was going to change my life. Literally, it was a hotel.
Okay.
I was like, you know, it's not. But if they'd said, we have this very special view or food, or I don't know, I was just like, I'm so over it. Like, it's not going to, you change your life and stay here. No, you know, so so it's finding something authentic and special. You know, Aroma Prime's thing about finding a smelly smell that no one else has got. Like, you could be a little bit more creative here, but Cool. Well, I think we've got time for one more question.
Yeah,
if we have one.
Let me think. I don't have any more.
No,
Do you have another one?
Nope. Lunch is calling soonish, so
I think it is.
Thank you, Ella.
Thanks, Ella. Really appreciate your input.